Hello and welcome to another rant. My name is Henning Pauli. Apparently that's really tough to get. I'm sorry, I'm still really enraged and adrenalinized from last week's rant, which I did half an hour ago, and I had to calm down a bit with some nice popcorn-flavored coffee. No, it's actually coffee with popcorn-flavored oat milk. So it's a popcorn cappuccino. Yeah, it sounds bad, but it isn't. Before we go into licenses, which I think should talk about, nothing's going to come of it, nothing's going to change in the world, but I think we should discuss things. Shout out to the sponsor, of course, as always. Very nice guitars from Poland. When you go to very nice guitars in Poland, why do I have a German accent? When you go to very nice guitars in Poland, you get very nice guitars. Not from Poland, from all over the world. They buy and sell internationally, and they buy and sell very nice, high-end, modern guitars. You can find the odd Strat, Tele, or Les Paul there, but primarily you have the Strandbergs, the Scabersons, the Hapasses, the Aristides, Mayonnaise, and so on and so on. Like your beautiful, flame top, quill tops, crazy guitars, bloodied up, all the modern, more metally and modern flavored guitars. Great shop, great people. You can even negotiate pricing. Check it out. Very nice guitars. Thank you for sponsoring this video. So, my good friend Kagan sent me, hey Kagan, he keeps sending me racist stuff on Instagram. That sounds bad. We're gonna tell Leslie bye-bye. She's leaving. Love ya. Yeah. Going to a friend with the dogs. So, he sends me racist stuff. More like, because we talked about racism quite a bit, him and I, and full disclosure, he is a black man from New York. I am not. I don't know if you can see that. And so we talked about it, and over here and there, and our first encounter was pretty... Anyway, let's not go there. I was probably very racist there, unwillingly. But that's a different kind of video we should be making at some point. That's gonna be fueled! Anyway, he sends me memes and stuff on Instagram. So he sent me something that really bugged me a bit. Not that I highly disagree with what generally was said, but with the details. So it was a podcast, an African podcast. So there were three presenters, all black. And this isn't about racism at all. It's about facts and fact-checking in podcasts. Okay? But the one guy talked about Germany and a specific candy that we've had here for, generations, which is really the one point, generations. And it was, it has a highly racist, it had back in the 50s, a highly racist name. And then a second name, which was also pretty damn racist. And it had a box that was very racist by today's standards. Everyone knows this. Times have changed. We call it something else now. Some older people, like my mom, she's mid-70s, will, out of habit, use, when you're a kid and you ate this stuff, then that's what you refer to. That's what you refer to it as. So she will still use the not so polite, not politically correct name, and then we say, Mom, you can't say that anymore. That's about as bad as it gets. However, on that podcast, the guy said, oh, this was used in Germany up until 5 years ago. And that's a piece of misinformation that's loaded and dangerous because it's simply not true, right? And if that was true, he showed the box from the, I'm going to say 50s, 60s, whatever, that was massively offensive. Absolutely 100% agreed. And I'm sure many countries have these atrocities through their history, and they've changed things, as we have. But he said, that term for that candy, which is now called a choco kiss, a chocolate kiss, or a foam kiss. I think you might, or Dickmans. Has nothing to do with dick. Dick means thick, because they're thick. You might know what I'm referring to if you're German. But that's not the point. The point was, it was an Instagram reel, and it had 31,000 hits, many comments, a lot from the black community, rightfully so. And they were enraged, rightfully so. Based on the information they had received from that reel, I would say, what the fuck is wrong with Germany? And there were things like, it's time to invade again, and I didn't expect anything better from them. Had the information been correct, that we used this terminology and this candy under that name until 5 years ago, we're talking 2020, then I'm fully with them. So the comments aren't wrong. They're just based on information that was not right. It simply was incorrect. We have not used that terminology in a long time. Some older people use it because they grew up with that term for that candy. And I looked it up. The company Dickmans, again, it doesn't mean penis man. It means, the company is called Dickmans, thick mans, whatever. They bought the rights to the candy and started to call it, at least, probably before that, but documented is 1981 is when they took over and the term chocolate kiss was introduced. Not 5 years ago, 1981. Now, we can talk about that candy having had that name. We can talk about that candy having still being called that by an older generation who continuously has to be reminded, by the way, you can't say that anymore. It's not okay, right? You know your parents and grandparents and how they can't adjust to some new terminology. They're not evil people. They grew up with that, and they have to be, and it's important to continuously remind them. But we can talk about all of that. And I think it's okay to say Germany had that and then changed at some point because they realized that's not cool. But saying it was in 2020 or it was in 1981 makes quite a bit of a difference how these 31,000 people perceive Germany, its citizens, its laws, its tolerance, and its level of racism. These people walk around with that knowledge, thinking if they run into me and I'm saying I'm from Germany with that haircut, that I must be a racist. And you know what? As I found out to a degree, I very likely am. That's a different discussion, and you probably are too. It's something to realize. But that's not the point. Actually, the point is to be aware of it and how it hits us. But that's not the point. The point is, in general, these podcasts. We live in a world, we here live in a world where we have freedom of speech. In some countries, that's massively under attack. In some countries, it absolutely doesn't happen. When you have freedom of speech, you can say whatever you want, which is in the closeted four walls of your living room. I don't know what that means. Totally fine. Tell your wife the moon's made out of cheese, and I absolutely believe in that. That's okay. But if you are planning on doing something public, which a lot of people are now doing, I mean a lot. So many people are revealing private parts of their lives in reels, in posts, and people are having discussions publicly in podcasts, in reels, and whatever. I think there has to be a responsibility to not suppress their freedom of speech, but to make sure that they are licensed to use that freedom responsibly. Now, there are broadcast licenses for TV in the US, definitely, and that can be taken away, as we've seen recently, or at least threatened. And with that comes a certain code of ethics to not use certain words, not curse on certain channels, and so on. There are rules that limit a little bit of what you can do, or you have to be fined, and so on. Summer cable, by the way. They sent this. Summer cable, good cables. See, I'm allowed to say that. So these rules do not prevent even big TV stations and news organizations from speaking their truth, whatever that is, and actually effectively directly lying. If you know it's not true, but you say it to get ratings, you say it to prop up someone more than the other, that's obviously super dangerous, and that's freedom of speech. There's nothing you can do about it. But what about misinformation that's not deliberate, but just because you're not competent enough? Now, this presenter in that podcast, I mean, it was just three guys sitting around chatting. That's what a podcast is. I don't think deliberately try to mislead his audience by saying Germany is still racist when it comes to that candy. I mean, we still have a lot of racists here, but we're trying to, deal with that. It's not the whole country. In saying it was 5 years ago simply was him being misinformed. That's just that little sentence made all the difference in his presentation. And showing the box from, the 50s, it was clearly an old box, instead of showing a modern box, or showing the box from the 50s and then saying, by the way, that's what it looks like now. They've seen the error of their ways. Now it's better. That sentence kind of should have been there. But it's a podcast. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Right? And I think that's dangerous. There are broadcast licenses. Why are there no podcast licenses? I don't know how you'd enforce it. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out here. And by the way, thank you, Colin Scott, for saying that, podcast license. I chatted to him and he said there should be a podcast license. So I'm stealing his thing. Thank you, Colin Scott. Science of Loud, subscribe. Because we talked about a channel that I found, which is called Fact Quickie. And to me, it seems like a great channel until I really dug into it. Someone sent me a video on Instagram about the Holocaust and did the Germans know? Again, comes back to the Germans. This is about podcasts in general, but we always come back to the Germans being fuckheads, which I don't mind pointing out. Back in the day, and some even today. So the topic was very intriguing. So I watched that 40-minute video. It was a guy on the left with a beard, glasses, British accent, talking very eloquently, it was clearly a fully written 40-minute script that he was reading to perfection. And lots of black and white pictures thrown in the edit to illustrate what he was saying. It was a very good video, and I took it as well-researched facts. But was it? I watched another video. And I had just spent 2 days at an AI conference where we talked about different tools and how to use AI in teaching. Should it be used in teaching? The pros and cons, music AI, generative AI, writing AI, with people that train teachers in Germany. So I was a guest lecturer there, and we discussed it for 2 days. And I was just, I saw that when you're creating an AI avatar, paying for the hand movements is extra. You pay extra for that. And so I paid attention to that. Paid attention to a bit of the hair. Then I'm starting to think, what if someone puts up the money to create a 40-minute video that was all based on an AI script from ChatGPT, feed that into it and say, here's my persona with that voice and that look, create that avatar and read that script for 40 minutes in a British accent. I could not tell if it was or not. But then I look at the channel and within 3 days, they released 6 videos with a length between 10 minutes and 40 minutes. Well-researched, well-edited, well-spoken, beautifully delivered videos. That's a lot of content for a 2-day span, for that much stuff to be released and produced and edited. Each of those videos should take the better part of a week to make. To research, to write, to read, to film, to edit, that's a week minimum. Releasing 6 of them or something in 2 days was a bit odd. So I looked at the videos. And the background behind the presenter changed a little bit. In 2 or 3 videos, it was very, very, very similar, but it changed a little bit. The angle changed. What was behind him changed a bit. If they were recorded in the time span of, a couple of days, then why would it be? His beard changed. The way his face filled out changed. It seemed like he was slightly different. His voice changed a bit too. Am I 100% sure he was AI? Nope. Do I have a sneaking suspicion that he was AI? Yep. And the video I watched was really good. Did the Germans know about the Holocaust? How much of that was fact? I don't know. If it was written by ChatGPT, which it seems now that's what they're doing. It's not just war stuff. They talk about where does the vibrator come from? Or why do we call it boobs? I mean, fun stuff, but also highly, historical and / or political stuff. But if it was written and compiled by AI, that 40-minute video that I took as a well-researched historical statement about Germany and the Holocaust, I don't want to say means nothing because I have a brain and I know roughly what happened, but I can't walk around with that knowledge and repeat it to people and think it's the truth. I simply can't. That's not right. Anything else he does, not right. I can't watch these videos now because I have a sneaking suspicion that it's all AI based. And even if there's a good meaning behind it, if they're well-meaning and they are not trying to deceive anyone, it's still AI information, which we all know is highly flawed, presented by an AI presenter, probably not fact-checked, and they're allowed to do that. Now that's the problem. That channel also within a week grew from 50,000 subscribers to 70,000 subscribers, which means either there's a lot of money behind it and they're pushing it, or people are loving these videos and the channel is taking off like crazy. Both of them very dangerous. I'm thinking there's money behind it because creating a guy to talk this fluently without really stopping in perfectly for 40 minutes in that quality, a video like this costs 40 minutes, that costs a lot of credits. To have a talking avatar like this, the editing costs. Each of these videos costs a lot of money. Now, if they put it up, they get YouTube revenue, and they make only $20 on each video, well, then they made a plus, and maybe there's a point, maybe it's good to do that. But I couldn't trust my eyes anymore. In the first 40 minutes, I had 0 suspicions. Now I watched more, I'm having suspicions. Should this be allowed? Should it be allowed to have humans sit there and say anything they want and give any kind of data, like Germans used highly racist words for a candy until 5 years ago? Because it can ignite mistrust in people. It can ignite hate. It can polarize. I think it would only be fair if there's a broadcast license to also, before you can actually obtain, upload anything like this on YouTube or anywhere, to obtain a podcast license. So you upload a video to YouTube, let's say, or to the podcast platform. You would have to type in your license registration, upload a picture or whatever. And you get that by everyone on the podcast, maybe except the guests, maybe, having to actually do training. Sensitivity training in terms of what you say can hurt. Training on impact of things said online. Training on researching facts, right? Fact checking. Training on the laws of what if you do say the wrong things and someone kills someone or whatever. But I do think there should be some oversight over people like me sitting in front of a camera saying whatever the fuck they want. Because I have a hunch that a lot of us don't use our critical thinking to check what they saw was actually real and well researched. I watched this guy on the Holocaust, that's a tough topic, for 40 minutes, and I took it as written in stone. And only now, 2 weeks later, I'm critically looking at the channel, looking at the uploads, and that's my world. YouTube's my world. So I'm looking at the uploads, looking at the quality of what they're doing. I know a little bit about AI. So now I'm not convinced, but I'm skeptical of how the channel is built and what is actually presented. Average guy, not even thinking about it. Oh, I heard this online. Bam. Just like this chick on the German, what's it called? Jungle something. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. Sits there and talks about the moon landing is fake and the earth is flat because she saw it on TikTok. And now runs around with that knowledge, saying it, repeating it, because she had it on good authority from TikTok. Should we get some kind of license to make any kind of claim anywhere? I mean, then of course nobody would say anything anymore because you'd have to get that license. But that literally means you have to go to school for 2 or 3 days and go through certain things, and simply it gets drilled into your head. Do some research, show your work, and be aware that what you say has consequences. Trust me, I know about what I say has consequences because I've made videos where I've accused people or things or companies, and then they come back, and then for 2 or 3 days I have to deal with them, and that can have positive or negative outcome. I have to deal with the comments, which I don't disable. You know, so there are consequences to the things we say online. But I do feel that it might have to be taught and signed off before you're allowed to do it. Never going to happen, of course, but a podcast, let's call it that. Let's call it a podcast license. What do you think about that? That's from me. Have a good one. Animals at the end.
On side, there's no one I'd rather have here by my side. I guess that's just married life. You're the most marvelous mother and wife. I promise to hold you tight and give you my love till the day that I die. I guess it's just married life.